Good morning and happy Monday. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Play the Rocky theme in your head. We have been talking about anchoring. We have been talking about success conditioning, the power of rituals. I asked you guys to share some of your favorite anchoring songs that already existed or anchors that already existed, and some of you did. It was great. Karen talked about Eat, Pray, Love, and how in Eat, Pray, Love in that movie, they said you can choose your feelings just like you choose your clothes every day. Dolores Moyer talked about the Rocky movies. Obviously, Stallone figured out early on the power of that system of telling that story. Steven Spielberg has perfected the ability to tell a story in a certain way to create certain emotional responses. He knows how to do it. And Stallone, he did the same thing. He understood the power of telling that basic story of the underdog and the underdog going from slavery to freedom. And why is it that he had the ability to do that? Well, it's because he lived that story. I don't know if you know Sly's true story, but his true story is a lot like Rocky. He started out as an actor. He was in New York. And he went and saw every agent literally dozens of times and kept getting turned down and turned down and turned down and turned down. And finally, he slept in an agent's outer office long enough that the agent put him in a movie where he got beat up. And they all said, look, there is no way that anybody is ever going to cast you in a movie. I mean, think about it. He was short. He looked bad. He talked funny. The reason that he talked the way he did is because the forceps messed up his jaw and part of his face when he was being born. So they all said, there's just no way that you're ever going to be a leading man. And so finally they put him in a movie where he was a thug and he got beat up. So then he decided to become a writer. And he wrote a couple of screenplays. And by the way, he never took a regular job. And he said in interviews later that the reason that he never took the regular job is because he was worried that if he started getting a regular paycheck, then he would lose his hunger and lose his drive. And so he would never make his dream come true. And his dream is that he was going to be a huge movie star. So he keeps going. He's married at the time. And he keeps going. Well, finally, he pawned his wife's jewelry. Jewelry that she had gotten from her parents, jewelry that she had inherited. And enough was enough. She left him and said, I'm all done. So now he's going around and he's essentially homeless. And so he would spend all of his time in the New York Public Library. And one day he was in the New York Public Library and he started reading Edgar Allan Poe. And he's a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan, and he knows all the stuff about Poe. He knows how he died. He knows the whole story. And Poe is what really inspired him to write the screenplay that changed his life. So he goes back home, and he was in like a shared home kind of thing. Like I said, he was basically homeless. And he sees a fight between Muhammad Ali and a guy by the name of Wepner, a white guy who's just getting his ass kicked by the champion, but he keeps coming back, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps coming back. And Stallone gets inspired. And he writes Rocky in 36 hours. And when he wrote it, he knew that he had something spectacular. So then he starts going back to all of these producers and pitching the movie. Now, he never really told this story until recently. So the story's always been told that he was doing this in New York. But at this point, he had actually moved to L.A. When he got the screenplay, he drove his car out to L.A. It barely made it. And he was going in front of all of these producers, and they all said the same thing. It's sappy, it's predictable, it's not going to go where. And he got rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. So finally, he gets somebody who's interested, and they say, we want to make the movie. And they said, okay, we want to buy the screenplay. We're going to pay you $10,000 for the screenplay. Meanwhile, by the way, he had run out of money, and he couldn't feed his dog, who was his most trusted companion. And so he went to a liquor store and he had actually sold his dog. He said, he went on to say it was the lowest point of his life. Part of the reason he doesn't like to tell this story. So they agreed to pay him $10,000 for the screenplay. And he said, okay, there's only one thing. I'm Rocky. I'm going to star in the movie. And they went, no, you're not going to star in a movie. In fact, they had already signed a deal with Ryan O'Neal. That's who they were going to have star in the movie. Can you imagine that? Ryan O'Neal. Incidentally, they did end up making that movie with Ryan O'Neal. It's called The Main Event, and it's got Ryan O'Neal and Barbra Streisand. And it was not very good, and it was not a hit. Stallone says, no, I'm the star. I'm not going to say this unless I'm the one that stars in the movie. $20,000, no. $30,000, no. $40,000, no. $50,000 to not star in your own movie, no. By the way, on the way to that meeting, the car that he had driven from New York to Los Angeles had broken down, and he had gotten there by bus. He didn't have a car, he didn't have any money, and he had sold his dog. But he had his vision and he had his principles. They call him back up and they say, okay, we'll give you $10,000 for the movie and you can star in it and you can direct it, but we're only going to spend a couple of $1 million on this movie and we don't think it's going to go anywhere, but okay, we're going to give it a shot. So he goes and inks the deal. What does he do with his money? The first thing he does is go and he buys his dog back, which, by the way, at this point now, it had gotten out that he had signed a deal. So I think he sold the dog for $50. This number goes all over the place. But the number supposedly is he spent thousands of dollars to get the dog back. And the guy is in part of Rocky. He's in the movie. And Butkus is Stallone's real dog. That was the dog that he sold and that he got back when he did the movie. If you go back and watch him accept the Academy Award, he hadn't gotten any of his money yet. He had gone back to New York after he made the movie. He had to borrow money for a plane ticket. The tux that he is wearing is an old, 70s tux, and it doesn't even fit him because he still hadn't gotten his money from the movie, even though it was a big hit, because they hadn't gone through the process to pay him. So when he's standing there accepting the Academy Award, he still is flat broke, doesn't have, is sleeping on other people's couches. Obviously now he's a big star, so it's a lot easier to find couches to sleep on. But he still was borrowing something to wear in order to make that movie. And by the way, he also said when he was making that movie that he was going to make 5 of them. And back when he made Rocky in the 70s, sequels were considered a joke. Nobody did them, and the ones that were done were terrible. They typically were very low production, and the only sequel that had ever worked was The Godfather. Rocky was the first one to really say, I'm going to do sequels and I'm going to have it work, followed up by Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But he was the first one to really make it work, and he had that vision also. And obviously the rest is history. The people that become significantly successful, they manage their state. If you're not able to manage your state, you're never going to go through that much rejection and be at that level of darkness in your life and still see that there's a way to get to the light. Still see that you believe that you're going to be able to find your way to that success. And guys like Rocky, guys like Jeff Bezos, guys like Michael Jordan, women like Dolly Parton, women like, what's her face? From Canada, she's getting ready to tour again, the country western star that went, Shania Twain. These are people that have an incredible vision, and they will not compromise that vision because it's so powerful for them, and they make it into a reality. And they're able to do that because they manage their state. They focus on what's going to go right, not what's going wrong at the current time. They work on their physiology. They know what their outcome's going to be and why they want it. They don't know how they're going to get it, but they know that they're gonna. And they do. And that's why we talk about them. So, as we head into the week, have your vision for that week, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that you're going to be a superstar. It can just going to be that this week you're going to be the greatest spouse that anybody has ever seen, the greatest parent that anybody's ever seen. You're going to be the greatest at whatever it is that you do. You're going to stand out in a way that's going to make you proud and make a difference. So at the end of this week and the end of next month and at the end of your life, you can look back and say, I did everything that I came here to do. Have an awesome day, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Let's say hi, Mr. Lakota, Mr. Drahobel, great to see you. My Uncle Bill, good morning. KJ, sorry I missed you at Mr. Moss's funeral. I did get a chance to talk to your bride. I know that you were doing honor guard. Good for you. Mr. Dakin, good morning. Jamie, good morning. Great to see everybody. Have an awesome day. Thank you very much for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.